Welcome to Giant Radio, where we're all about big ideas in sales and marketing and eye-popping discussions with successful entrepreneurs. Turn up the volume and settle in. Now, here's the founder of Giant Jacks Media and your host, Paul Hitchcock.
Hi, everybody. It's top of the hour here. We're going to get going. So thanks for jumping in. My name is Paul Hitchcock, and this is my channel, Giant TV, where we have incredible entrepreneurs doing amazing things. And certainly Ross and Laura are two of them. Welcome, both of you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks,
Very
Paul.
excited.
Yeah, and Laura is a Vistage chair in the greater Salt Lake City area, doing amazing things, building a group there. Ross is the founder of Kingo AI, having his thumb on the pulse of AI, speaking around the country, working with businesses with AI. And Ross, before we get to you, Laura, I want to start with you and just a few words about your Vistage practice. What are you doing over there?
Yeah, it's really exciting. So I'm in the greater Salt Lake City area. I have Vistage members, various non-competing groups, anywhere from 3 million all the way to 400 million, 5 employees to 550 employees. So it's a broad range of experience, diverse men and women, and excited to be here because Ross is one of my very first Vistage speaker in my peer group. And he brought a wealth of information to it. And obviously, he's worked with many of my members as well. So excited to be here.
Yeah, Ross, before you came on, Laura and I agreed everybody loves Ross. Oh my. What is it with you? Uh,
Ah,
yeah, this is great. And Ross, you're based out of Southern California, Vistage speaker, as I said. Let's just jump right into this because this is a hot topic. And Laura, we're going to have you give some input along the way too, because I know you're having some discussions with your leaders about AI. Certainly, Vistage has been all over it with some great content. But Ross, changing so rapidly. It's unbelievable. It seems like every day something new is going on with AI. But let's get in this. Give us kind of a roundabout of AI right now, and let's get into some detail.
yeah. I still think it's the case that this is starting to go faster and faster, and some people recognize that and some people don't. If since we've spoken last, GPT 5.6 has come out. OpenAI has now their sole Terra Luna models. We have Fable back on the market now after the government took it down for a few weeks for kind of security concerns. That thing is pretty amazing. And internally, the AI labs are now talking about having superhuman computer use. What does that actually mean? It means the AI will be able to, and can today do this well, but it'll be better. It can more or less sit at your computer and use your keyboard and your mouse. And I just feel like is everybody really appreciating what that means? That means that an AI will be able to do a lot of conventional knowledge work tasks, at least that we have in the economy. And so I think this stuff continues to just go faster and faster. And you still have some folks that don't really get it or see it. I'll just share a quick story. There was
Yeah.
actually a chair that I was working with the other day who was saying, "Hey, Ross, I went into ChatGPT and my wife and I were on this trip and we were trying to plan this route. And so I went into ChatGPT and I said, hey, give me kind of this route from here to there. And I want to see a bunch of waterfalls. And it gave me that back to me and it was terrible. It was all wrong. Everything was mapped wrong and it was just useless. And then I sat down with him and I said, okay, well, which model are you using? Like, how did you ask the question essentially? And then I did the whole thing with him from scratch, using GPT 5.6 Soul with extra high thinking, and it blew him away. It actually mapped it on Google Maps and showed each of the pinpoints of where you would go and described each of the points. And he was like, yeah, this is 100 times better than it was before. So
So what's your comment there? Is the prompting is what matters most?
the prompting is, surprisingly not as important as it used to be. The thing that matters most to me, and from what I've seen, is am I using the right tool? So when he was doing this, he was using the standard chat GPT. It's called GPT Instant. It's like the chatbot version that I should be asking for recipes and those kinds of things. He wasn't using the work version. And the work version is ChatGPT Work. It's using GPT 5.6 Soul with the reasoning level set to extra high. And so yeah, there's just this diverging, I think, experience that people have with these tools, and that's kind of where I'm seeing AI going right now. It's just going to keep getting better and faster. It's going to get better, so it's accelerating.
Yeah, and I want to get into the business applications of this because you're dealing with, businesses, Ross, that are looking at this, and Laura, you have in your group there businesses. So what are you seeing, Ross, and what, when you're speaking to businesses, consulting with them, where is the current landscape right now with these legit businesses in AI, and what are you talking about and working with them on?
Yeah. So from my experience recently, everyone is paralyzed by governance. They're all paralyzed by data privacy and security. And they don't want, or at least they need to have somebody come in and talk to them and explain what is secure and what's not and how to set it up appropriately. Because otherwise, they're just unsure. They're unsure what to do. And so consequently, they either choose not to use AI or they use Copilot. And I don't want to bag on Copilot too much. It's not bad. It's just not great. It's kind of like the chair asking for the waterfall route. You're going to get the bad result from Copilot, essentially. And so you get these companies that don't really recognize the capability because they're not willing to connect it into their data. And the analogy that I use here is like, okay, let's say I hired an employee and I said, hey, welcome to the team. We're super excited to have you. Here's your 30, 60, 90-day plan. Here are your metrics. Here's what we're going to hold you accountable for. There's just one thing. We do not trust you. We don't trust you, and so therefore you can't get an email, you don't get a calendar, you're not allowed to look at any of our company files or our customer list because I'm pretty sure you're going to download those. You're not allowed to talk to anybody on the team because I'm sure you're going to steal our trade secrets. And so I asked the groups like, okay, how do you think that employee is going to do when you set them up this way? And of course, they're not going to be able to do anything. And yet this is how we treat AI. We're so
Interesting.
arguably scared more or less of connecting it into our data. And I do want to say you shouldn't be a cowboy here and just connect it without talking to your IT team. You can do this responsibly and securely. But once you do that, now you start unlocking the actual agents and digital employees. So that's what I'm seeing with most companies and most groups right now is they're just kind of paralyzed by governance.
And Laura, I wanted to ask your thoughts on that. You're meeting, monthly with your group. You have the one-to-ones with the CEOs and owners. Are these topics coming up?
Oh, definitely. I think it's interesting because the smaller businesses and then the ones that get a little bit larger are both equally having that governance piece of it. And how do they really make sure it's secure that some have paralyzed, stop using it, and some haven't even used it because of it. I think the other thing, Ross, is, and I'd be curious to hear what you say, is, they're also how do they roll it out to their people? And to your point about the governance piece, the trust piece, that's another piece that I think has been a really big topic of conversation around the table.
Well said. I mean, and then you start getting into the change management side and internal adoption and how it affects people, obviously. And there's so many different sides to this because the way that I view this, the litmus test that I have for CEOs right now is where do you put AI as an expense on your P&L? So do you put it under the software category or do you put it under the labor category? And especially when you're first getting started, it's very easy to see that it's software. Like that's our initial thought with it. Obviously you sign up for ChatGPT, you pay $20 a month, you have to go to the website, you ask questions, you get results. It's very much like a HubSpot or a Salesforce. But once you really start integrating it and connecting to your data and it's doing work in the background and no human even needs to be talking to it or in the loop, it starts to become clearer that it is actually labor. And the consequence of that is, okay, if you're going to be integrating a new labor force into your company, well, you need to set them up with access and data privacy and security, but you also have to handle the change management and how they're going to work with the other side of your org chart. And it just gets a lot more complex.
Well, and I want to clarify, when you say you need to connect it to your systems, what systems are you talking about? And,
Yeah, it depends on how ambitious or bold you are here, but to me, everything, anything, everything, whatever a human would be doing, you should have an AI connected into that. Now, you can do this, to be clear, in a unsafe way, and you can do it in a safe way. So you would want to talk about that and make sure you're doing it in the safe way. But we literally have ours connected into our QuickBooks, our financial system, but also our bank account. Now, that doesn't mean it can initiate transactions, although we could allow it to do that, but it retrieves transactions, it retrieves credit card charges, it can look for patterns. We let it have access to anything that a human would.
Interesting. And so all the apps that you're using in your business for whatever application, finance or sales and marketing,
CRM, ERP,
connect
financial
them,
system.
connect them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
And
well
legal
that,
as
yeah.
well. Ooh,
And
excuse me.
No,
legal,
go.
well,
Legal.
so the lawyers are going to have a problem with this, but I mean, as a society, I don't think we have fleshed out the law in this area, obviously, and um, confidentiality and discoverability and such. So maybe that's the place I would go to last. But, uh, in principle, at least, if you want your digital employees to be able to do some task, they need access to the same information that your human employees would. Otherwise, they can't do it. So you kind of just have to decide in that context, what do you want to connect to?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, which gets into this point here is where is AI creating real business value today? Like where, the ChatGPT, all right, everyone's got that, but where really is the meat on the bones here?
Yeah.
With some examples, maybe.
Yeah. So it's so funny. It's like a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, I would come out with a list of all the things that AI could do, more or less. I'd give you like, it can create invoices, it can close your books, it can analyze this report, it can create your PowerPoint. And I would list all this stuff. The models are now so good that I actually think that's not really helpful. It's more helpful for me to ask you, what do you do? Just tell me what your humans are doing, and then I'll tell you if AI can't do that thing. But very likely, it can do pretty much anything. I will tell you the areas where it's weak right now are in high level design,
Yeah.
in vision, meaning reading complicated schematics or architectural diagrams, for instance, although again, it is getting much better. And I anticipate that, we'll probably have another year before that stuff falls to the models. But today, if you can describe any process to me, I'll tell you how to get a model to do it. So, and it's easy stuff too, is probably the quickest win. So, in other words, having an AI look at your emails and draft responses, recapping meeting transcripts and sending you those, or writing follow-up emails after a meeting that you had. Those are some quick wins. But again, anything in the financial department, a lot of stuff on HR, employee onboarding, analysis, coming up with interview questions, a lot of stuff on the legal side, contract review. You still need to talk to your lawyers. There's a bunch of stuff in that area.
And to Laura's point, how do you get the adoption amongst your employees? And Laura, maybe you could even
Yeah.
reference some discussions that are coming up with your folks. Like, how are they getting it to their employees and getting a buy-in?
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't feel it's company-wide based on the conversations we've had around the table. I think to Ross's earlier point, it really is sales, finance, like there are departments that seem to be or functions that are really expanding and utilizing it. But across the board, there's still some figuring out of how do we use it on the floor in a manufacturing, in a warehouse and some of those areas. So I think it's kind of a mix as far as who's adopting it and where, broader, but not company wide.
Yeah, to that point of it not being company wide, I do this new kind of section in my talk now that is very focused on strategy. So companies all want to know the tactical, which button do I press? How do I build agents and skills? And that's good. We still do that. But the strategic thinking is now, okay, where's the value of AI and what prevents why do you think you have a competitive advantage in using Claude or ChatGPT? Because your competitors, they can all sign up for it too. They can all get an AI champion. They can all do training. They can all do change management, and they're going to do those things. So any advantage that you get from that is likely going to be competed away. And so to Laura's point, from a whole organization standpoint, where's the durable value for your company? And this gets into It's more complicated, but I think it is basically uh, pulling all of your data into a centralized database or a data lake, a data warehouse, and building an intelligence layer. So organizing all that information and then having AI agents sit on top. And so this is very different, Laura, to your point. I think a lot of companies, at least initially, treat AI adoption as a bottom-up approach. So they'll
Mhm.
give different teams access to AI and say, you go figure it out, like you go automate whatever you're doing. And I think the long-term play and the deeper value here is treat it as more of a top-down, centralize your data, and start building agents that live on top of your company's data.
Mm.
It's a different approach. It's harder. It's more technical. I also think it's going to have more of a durable value, a competitive advantage for your company.
Yeah, I think that does make sense. When you talk about that, Ross, how do you get over that hurdle with a CEO, a business owner, to really do more of a top-down approach? I'd be kind of curious with that approach that you might have.
Yeah, I mean, the new version of my talk is called Start With You because truly, I think it does start with the CEO, and it starts with their belief, more or less. In other words, again, where do they put this on their P&L? Is this software? Is this labor? And if you tell me it's software, then that tells me that you either don't see the potential or you're not making use of the potential. If you tell me it's labor, I think I get that you've seen it. So have you almost had this moment? And this moment is like, hey, I would have hired somebody to do this, or I would have paid a contractor 15,000 to do this. And Claude just did it in an hour and a half while I was having lunch with somebody. Like if a CEO has not had that moment yet, then I think that's what they need to focus on is getting that sort of event for themselves. Once they're bought in, they're the only seat in the organization that has the authority to make the changes that you're going to need to make. I tell this example. I don't want to get too historical here, but there's this historical parallel where you had these factories in 1880 or so, and they had these steam engines, right, that were the source of the power. They're big, they're bulky, you can't move them, they're expensive. And so all the machinery was sort of huddled up around the steam engine up at the top. So that's why the factories were laid out the way they were. And then what happened? We commercialized and productized electricity. So you get the electric motor. So what did the factory owners decide to do? They swapped out the steam engine for the electric motor. And what happened to their factories? Nothing. They got almost like no productivity improvement from that. They just went from steam to electricity because their factory was all architected the exact same way. All of the machines were still huddled up around this central power source. So what happened? It took about 30 years for somebody to say, what's the unique advantage of the electric motor? It's small, it's cheap. You can put it inside of other machines to power them. And so then you can start distributing it across a factory floor, and that gives you the assembly line. So the true unlock is not the technology itself in the electric motor, it's redesigning the factory around what the technology enables. And the CEO is the only one that can ask and answer that question is how do we redesign the factory in a world where intelligence is no longer expensive? Because most of our companies were built in a world where intelligence has been the bottleneck. And we're saying that's not true anymore. So yeah, it's got to start with the CEO, and I think they've got to see this basically.
Yeah.
Fascinating. If you were stepping into a 20 to $100 million business today, Ross, what would you be focused on first 90 days? You go in there, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. We do this. We help companies put together a roadmap for this kind of circumstance. And the question obviously is how ambitious is the company? How much do they kind of see where this technology is going? And it's perfectly fine if you just see it as a productivity tool, right? It's going to make your people more efficient. And so you would want to change what you do depending on where they want to go and then obviously where they are. But for most companies, if I'm just to take kind of the median company, you usually need to start with data privacy and security. You need to have the governance conversation. You need to talk about an AI use policy. What's your carrot and your stick? How are you incentivize people? And then what are the consequences if they're not using it appropriately? And then after that, some sort of boot camp to basically train their team to use the technology effectively. Once you have alignment from the team, then you're going to probably get into assigning an AI champion who's going to start going around to different teams and doing quick wins, so little prototypes using Claude Cowork and Codex. And then if you are a little bit more ambitious, you can start talking about starting to centralize your data. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
it's a lot.
Helpful. Yeah, it is a lot.
Well, I was going to say it is a lot, which is how do you prioritize the dozens of possibilities that a company could use AI for
Yeah.
when you're doing this, not to overwhelm somebody.
Yeah.
What do you prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's ROI calculation here, and when you
Mm-hmm.
think about what's the low-hanging fruit that will give you the biggest impact, it's getting I think getting sort of an AI pilled team essentially, or a team meaning that uses this technology on a day-to-day basis. They have a strong AI reflex. They're reaching for it when they have a problem or an opportunity or a challenge ahead of them. That's where you get the biggest bang for the buck because it really is then sort of a $20 license per person, or quite frankly, even $200 per person is not crazy. When you
Yeah.
think about this from an ROI perspective,
Yeah.
like they should be getting far, far more value out of it. I would start with that. I would start with connecting it into your data, training, and the almost change management side, getting people to see the opportunity, see the benefit for themselves, sell the value more or less. That doesn't require you to do any crazy tech projects.
Yeah, and I got to say my just an example because Russ, you and I have talked about this, and Laura's has come up with you is sales and marketing and branding, all that stuff. It seems to be low hanging fruit for AI, right?
Mhm.
And this example I use is that we go into chat, we have the newest version, go in there, prompt it for exactly the type of website or landing site we need, and we tell it, hey, we're going to go use the AI builder tool and go high level. So just give me the exact instructions to give that tool so it can build it because it's a better builder.
Mhm.
So literally within maybe 7 seconds, it spits out a result, copy, paste it into the AI builder and go high level. And within 4 minutes, you have a site that is
Yes.
ready to rock and roll. That whole window right there where you can build that thing in less than, 8 minutes. I know you've done this live, Ross. The productivity with that, where an app we had to pay for, a person doing it, taking hours and hours and back and forth. It's insane how productive that is now, right?
Yeah.
It's
Such an
insane.
impact.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Laura, I was going to ask you because I know Vistage talks a lot about this. You know, I know that businesses in Vistage are growing faster than businesses that are not in Vistage. The stats bear that out. I've seen that, and now you hear a lot about this of, hey, AI's here, don't get left behind, and so forth. Do you see, and our leaders talking about this, and Ross, you can comment too that how are businesses that adopt AI, embrace it, are they going to accelerate well beyond others in key areas? Obviously, I think I know the answer is rhetorical, but what's your comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's so powerful because I think I mean we've alluded to this. I have several members who have acquired companies and their acquisition process using AI has been completely different than when they would have done it 5 years ago or
Oh
even
yeah,
3 years ago.
yeah,
And I have one of my CEOs who has acquired two companies. And this is all because of AI and the manpower and the agents that he's been able to set up to really help him on the integration, even the legal aspects of it. So I do feel the momentum and the speed in which you can do things, the turnaround time has really made an impact within the members around the table of who are in my peer group. Absolutely. Yeah, it's
great.
powerful.
Crazy. I see this in groups that there's just I kind of started off saying this, but there's almost this just clear divergence inexperience and ambition with these tools. And the thing that makes the talks harder, especially over the last year, is some people are still using it like a fancy Google. They use it a couple times a week. And to Laura's point, some people are like, we're building agents to automate, half our work, and it's working out. So just a massive chasm there.
Yeah, it really is. It is a widespread, but I think one thing that really came out of what you were saying earlier, Ross, was, we have, if you think about it, when you implement an ERP system or any type of system, you have a group of people who part of that implementation process, right? The how-tos, what's working, what isn't working. And it really makes sense as we talk about AI to really have that within, your own governance of how you're setting up, like, as you would financials or anything else, as we talk about ROI and, how it's impacting the company as a whole.
Yes. Yeah.
And Laura, I want to ask you too that I know one of the benefits of being in Vistage is peer to peer, and they really help each other working on their businesses. Are you starting to see that with AI? Are they coming together in your meetings, your monthly meetings, where now they're all saying, I'm doing this and learning from each other, specifically in AI?"
Absolutely. In fact, we are having a group meeting next week, and one of our members, the one I alluded to, who has acquired two companies using AI in the speed in less than 12 months.
Wow.
And he is going to show us, we're going to do a demo. It may not be like yours, Ross, but I'll tell you, he's pretty savvy. He's going to do a large scale and also a small scale. So, how you could adapt and use some of the tips and tools that he may bring. So, we are talking about it every meeting. So, as part of issue processing, opportunity processing, there really is a discussion about who's using the latest and greatest. And I'll tell you one thing that's been most of them that were early adapters within the group started with ChatGPT, but they haven't broken up with ChatGPT. They're just now moving to Claude, and Claude is really, they're finding the power and magnitude. So it's interesting to hear the discussions each meeting of what someone's doing and how they're using it on the financials, or whether it be invoicing or sales and sales strategies. So it's pretty fantastic.
But Ross, well, that's great. And Ross, I was going to ask you that on that question. Let's say you've used chat for 2 years, trained it on your business, it knows you, and how can you transition to Claude, or you got to start over and train it, or is there a way to have one
Yeah,
train the other?
it's a good question. I think this is actually still pretty easy to transition from one to the other. There is actually a feature if you go into Claude, go to your settings, go to capabilities, there's a thing called import memories. And it doesn't give you a totally faithful import of everything from ChatGPT, but it's pretty good, honestly. So,
Okay.
and ChatGPT has something similar to go from Claude to Chat. So I think the models don't yet have a very strong differentiation. They're kind of becoming commoditized. But I will say that the AI labs recognize this. They're really leaning into learning not just you individually, but your company. So Anthropic came out with a thing called Claude Tag. Well, they'll be as part of your Slack channels, and they'll learn how you function and how you work. And they'll really help you. They'll become invaluable. To Paul, to your point, you'll probably say, like, ooh, we can't really get away from Claude. They already know us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't want to leave.
Yeah. I'm feeling that now. I got to figure that. I'm feeling that now already. All right, I'm doing a quick fire round on the way out here as we hit the thing. I'm in, and feel free either one. Okay, Ross, one AI tool every CEO should try.
For for the wow factor, probably Notebook LM. It's really easy to use and it probably wow you a bit.
Biggest AI myth.
Is this for me or Laura?
Either one. Either
Big,
one. You go.
I got the biggest AI myth. Um, I think that this is probably getting a little nerdy, that these models are just autocomplete. So there's this criticism that these things are just predicting the next word. That used to be the case. That is not the case anymore.
Okay. How about biggest AI opportunity?
Ooh, I think it's this intelligence layer. I think it's rethinking what your company can become when intelligence is cheap, when intelligence is cheap.
Okay.
Mm.
One habit, I'm gonna ask you, Laura, one habit every CEO should adopt around AI because you're on the front lines.
Mm.
Yeah, we've talked about this, and this really is using it daily and using it beyond travel, using it beyond what's in your refrigerator to create a recipe, but really utilizing it around culture, strategy, the client development piece. So that's really, my group has really, nonprofit, for profit, have taken off with us.
Yeah, that's funny. That's the old dog, new tricks thing because I find myself doing tasks and think to myself, what are you doing, you idiot? AI could be doing this. And I've been spending an hour on it. So I just shift, oh, okay, I'm gonna go do it over here. All right. And last one, one piece of advice for CEOs that are watching this. Both of you, one piece of advice?
Oh,
They treat, yeah, Laura,
go
please.
ahead, Ross. No, no, you go.
Okay. I would, if you're not fully bought in, I would treat AI like exercise. And for 30 minutes a day,
Mm.
um, don't just mess around with it. Do real work, but have the AI help you do the work. And think of it as R&D time, but it's not until you've really seen the potential that any of this is going to make sense.
Love it. Laura?
Yeah, to build on that, I think, the conversations we're having around the table by everyone experimenting and what bit they're taking and teaching each other has been really powerful. And so encouraging you to sit down as you would a journal, right? Reflect on things, use AI, but also taking it to a group of peers or individuals you trust, and having a deeper conversation of how they're using it to build on how you can utilize it, whether personal as also business.
That's great. I really appreciate both of you being here. And I'll say to anyone that's watching this, and we do simulcast this everywhere, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, is that we're sending out the replay to everybody. So you'll have the replay. And also around that, there'll be a way to get in touch with Laura and Ross about what they're doing. I highly suggest you get connected to both of them. Laura's building an incredible group there of CEOs, and Ross, as I said, is in the fire on this thing, in the fire. Yeah. So thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you both.